That's good.
All right, so now is the time to show y'all what you have been wondering, what we're here to show you with. So I'm gonna actually go over a couple of different ways that we do some pretty shoddy work. I'm gonna show you how other shops do shoddy work, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like beforehand. I have done a few different examples on this on purpose, not for the sake of the video, but to cut corners and save time, and the exact reason why other shops do it. The difference here is that this is my vehicle, my personal vehicle, and I'm not selling a customer. If we are doing shoddy work on a customer's vehicle and we are cutting corners on a customer's vehicle, the customer knows about it and agreed to it. So if you remember a while back, the green road course race car we did, I showed y'all how shoddy that job was and explained to y'all that that was a $1,200 all over job. Customer come to me, said, hey, cut corners. It's a race car, it's gonna get banged up. That's what we did. So there is a time and a place for it, but I don't want y'all to get taken advantage of by a smaller shop, because normally the big shops don't do it. The big shops do stuff, but sometimes they don't do this level of shoddy stuff. So I'm gonna show you everything wrong with this paint job beforehand and the correct way to do it, and then we're gonna look over this job in the next video after it's painted outside, and we're going to see these problematic areas, what they actually look like when they're done. That way you'll kind of see if how good some of the stuff is hid, and you'll kind of also know what to look for on your vehicle, because I've had customers come in that are friends of mine that's had me do work for them, insurance work or repair work, and when they pick the vehicle up, I'm like, man, what happened to the vehicle? The whole side of the vehicle was painted in the past. And they were like, how did you know the whole side was painted? And I said, well, if you roll the sills back, you can see the hard line that some shop cut corners on and hard lined it behind the sills instead of taking the sills out and doing the whole jam. And they were like, oh wow, I didn't even know that that was there. So the whole point of this channel is I'm gonna try to educate y'all with stuff. So instead of this series of this Tahoe and this video, instead of us just sitting here watching paint get sprayed on, we're gonna use this opportunity to show you shoddy work, how it's done, where it's hit at commonly, and what it looks like afterwards, and what you can look for on your vehicle if your vehicle has been repaired. So let me flip the camera around and we're just gonna dive right in. Number one, okay, if this was a expensive all over job or an expensive insurance job or any high-end work, decent money, the doors should not be on the vehicle. Doors should not be on vehicles whenever you're doing high-end work. Body panels should not be on vehicles when you're doing high-end work. There shouldn't be much taping on high-end work. If you watch all the Fox Body videos, I'll show you how, or if you go back and watch the Chicago Grudge Car Fox Body videos, we went over how to tape it, and I show you everything that's acceptable for high-end work. That car was 100% broke down, besides the windshield and the back glass, and painted all the way up. If you want to see really correct breakdown, you go back and watch Randy's Red Fox Body that we did on the channel, and it was taken all the way down to all the glass out of it. So on this, number one, your doors should not be on the vehicle if you're doing an issue like this, because normally your quarter panel goes all the way into your door jamb. So to do this right, you need to paint your whole quarter panel, paint that whole piece up there, and paint this whole piece that goes up here, and then inside the door jambs, being there's nowhere to break it, inside the door jambs could be completely painted. Everything should be completely painted with this quarter panel to do it correct, so you don't have a hard line anywhere. Most commonly, people will hide a hard line inside behind the door sill, but from the factory, when the car is painted, there's no hard lines. Everything is painted all in one swipe, and then sills and stuff are put back or put on it. Same way it should be done if it's really high-end work, is everything should be taken off, everything should be painted, and everything put back on. That's how it should be done. Often they will also pull windows out, because obviously you cannot get up inside here really good. You can't prep in here, so this could be a problem area where paint can flake and peel at a later date. I have ran Scotch-Brite up in there, but that's the best I can do. So if it's really high-end work, your glass should also be removed. The doors should be off. They shouldn't be taped or nothing like that. You should never, ever, ever have a hard line. So little items like hinges, they should be unbolted from the vehicle. They should be painted separate without the bolts in them, and then they should be put back on the vehicle to get a quality job. Obviously, these doors I fought with a little getting them set. I don't want to fight with this again. It's over 100 degrees here outside. I feel the heat index, and I don't want to deal with it again. So I hard lined it here under our hinge because we have to paint our hinge, and I'm not painting the bottom of this jamb anyway. So this hard line is a super no-no. Whenever you open this door, we'll show you after the paint job, you're going to see a hard line in here. It might not be super noticeable if you don't know what to look for, but I'm going to show you what to look for after we get done painting this. So obviously your fender should not be taped. Your fender should technically be off. So you can get to this. Your windshield should be out, and the whole roof should be done. So you should not be getting anything like that where there is a hard line. There's going to be a hard line right here across the roof. So the whole entire roof should be painted to do it correctly. Sunroof should be dropped to do all that correctly. Roof rack should not be on a vehicle. So to do this correctly, this paint needs to be rolled all the way over to at least this seam that's inside here. So there's actually a seam in here. It could at least go to there because then there's a trim piece that goes over top of it, but the roof rack should have been pulled. To pull the roof racks, you got to pull the headliner. Headliner's already out of this one. We could have pulled the roof racks. I have a million nuts and bolts everywhere. As y'all know, I don't feel like taking something else apart. So we are cutting corners yet again on that item. Tail lights are out of it. That's a good thing. A lot of the most common thing is that these real jack hole shops will freaking tape your tail lights when they're just 2 screws. So even we don't even do that. Even our flip cars, a lot of times, if we're doing this much work, we'll pull it. We have another way we do flip cars, and another reason I have briefly explained in some of the other videos. But most of the time your light should be pulled. Your bumper, this is going to be a melt. So we're going to do a melt right here to save us, like we said, from painting this whole entire bumper. This is extremely common in the automotive industry to melt stuff in, and you're the one that's stuck with the issues later down the road. So this is going to give us a problem here in anywhere from 2 to 5 years, no matter what anybody says. The area that this was melted in will show back. With this being a white vehicle, you might never see it. It might take 10 years, 8-10 years to see this, but to save me time from taking this bumper apart and dealing with all these individual sensors, taking the cap off and everything, we're going to do a melt. So that's another thing that if you're paying for high-end work and you stop by the shop to check on your vehicle, you shouldn't see any panels half painted. Even if they say, oh, well, it's a melt or a blend or whatever of the clear coat, not of the color. Blending of the color is different, but blending, melting out of the clear coat, that should be an immediate red flag if you're paying a good price. Now, if you and the shop agreed beforehand and y'all, you understand that you're getting a melted job, which anytime I won't even sell a melt to a customer, period. We'll do this every now and then on a flip car. I'll do this on my own vehicles, but I will not sell this right here to a customer at all. The only option you have with me is to paint the whole entire bumper, if this is a customer relationship. The bumper, this is pretty acceptable. The bumper is loose, it's dropped back, it's back taped in there, and then face taped. But the bumper still should be off the car technically, so that you can paint all the way that whole edge. I'll be able to get that edge acceptable enough like this, just popping this bumper out. I popped it out so I could sand all the edge and clean that up. Insurance companies will most of the time write you for dropping a bumper, which all they want done is then it's unclipped and dropped down a little so you can get that edge instead of paying you to R&I the whole bumper, which R&I stands for remove and install if you're ever looking at estimate. So again, we got our windows issues, we got our roof rack issues, we got big issues right here. We got more hard lines up here. So this one's going to be really hard to see when the job's done. It's a little easier to see down here than it is up here. but the way that this door opens big, it's easy to see this area, but it kind of stays tighter up here a little bit. And this is a smaller area versus the bigger area. So I think this this hard line is going to be harder to see than that hard line. So we will test that when we pull this thing out tomorrow, of how easy that hard line is to see versus this hard line to see. Again, your windshield should be out of the vehicle if it is if you're paying a good price, because there is a little rubber seal in there that rides against the body of the car. So technically the only way to get the paint all the way down is to pull the windshield. My windshield is getting pulled, so it's kind of backwards. So normally I would have my windshield guy come in, pull the windshield, and we go ahead and paint, and then he sets the windshield in. But on this one, the only problem areas you're creating is this little area here, or this little tiny lip on the front of here, and I just flat out do not care. So if the windshield was out, then as I was washing it or anything, all that water I'd have to deal with it going in the vehicle, or I'd have to back tape it so it can run down. It's just creating more work on myself than is needed right now, so I'll tape it. I'm not worried about that, but this is an excellent opportunity to explain why it's wrong. Again, you have issues up here with hard lines, more hard lines across the roof. I have actually had a customer drive, I think it was 3 hours to bring me a vehicle to have a door repaired as an insurance quote. So it was a front door. So we did the front door correctly, we did the fender correctly, and then he actually paid me to hardline his front half of his roof. So it was a black Tahoe, and the front half was the clear coat was all dry rotted and fading and peeling. And he didn't want to pay to get the whole roof done, so he said, can't we just go in there and hardline it right beside the sunroof? And he had a little bit of paint experience from knowing other people in the business, and I was like, yeah, if that's what you want to do, I could care less. So we literally hardlined it, and when you're standing back like this looking at the vehicle, you can't even see that hard line up there, and his vehicle looked wonderful. But if you ever get up on top, you got that hard line, and then that hard line can also chip and peel at a later date too, which could be an issue. But the customer literally drove 3 hours to request us to do the insurance job plus to do the shoddy work, because a lot of shops won't do. You either get shoddy work or you get good insurance job, or you get mediocre stuff. So tons of issues right here, another hard line, but we're actually probably gonna melt this out even though I have Scotch Brighted all this. So that's a whole nother issue. Melts normally get 3000 grit, whereas Scotch Brite is a little rougher, but being it's a jam, I'm not really worried about it. The back bumper was prepared correctly with 3000 grit. So what we'll do is we'll bring our white in here, we'll bring our clear in here somewhere, and then we're just gonna melt it off in here. And that way, hopefully we won't have a hard line here. I might have to do a little bit of hand wax. I don't know if I'll get this to shine back up because I did run Scotch Brite over it. But again, we're gonna look at this whenever this job is done. We're gonna look at it outside and we're gonna see what kind of problems we can see. So huge issues here. Obviously this door is still on this vehicle. Again, the reason why it's on my vehicle is because I don't want to take it apart. I'm sick of taking it apart. I don't want to have to hang it back on. But you have everything back taped in here, and actually already have that back tape coming undone. So let me grab some tape and actually show y'all. We went over in the Fox body video on back taping and face taping. So whenever you have back tape that won't stick like that, I said you can face tape it also. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm just gonna do part of this, being I'm trying to hold the camera, but we are gonna find our spot welds right here, and we are gonna split our tape on our spot welds. So our edge of our tape is gonna go right through our spot welds because we know a seal is hiding that. And then we're just gently gonna push this, and that's gonna connect the two, where now we have it back solid. We need to tape that up here in a second, but that's what we're gonna do. That way when our seal pushes back on, our seal will go all the way to here and you won't see that hard line. But we went over that in a Fox body video. Actually, it looks like all this stuff has come undone. And what it is when this door, I have closed it, it's kind of pushed it. So I will go back and face tape all of this just so it don't leak inside there. Issue right here is there's no primer. I didn't feel like opening, I didn't feel like doing all of this crap just to get primer in there. So I literally primed this vehicle with the door closed, and this will just get paint over it. So you'll obviously see some flaws in the paint, but the white's gonna be so bright that I bet you won't see that much of it. So I'm gonna show you that outside in the light, and we'll see what the difference is in somewhere like this that was completely primed, and we'll see what it looks like on somewhere that was completely skipped and there's just straight raw metal and straight body filler and everything like that. Paper, I have spoke on paper in other videos. I had to actually apologize to a gentleman. I'm not gonna call his name out, but he does pretty good work, but he's old school and prefers paper. I didn't mean that it's completely terrible to use paper. What I meant is that normally, if you see some little shop that is straight up taping your stuff up with newspaper or whatever, and they're not dropping plastic, often the work is not subpar. Now, there are old school guys that do extremely good work that prefer to mask it up with paper, and that's perfectly fine. Just check the customer's past work and check the reputation, because this gentleman I'm speaking on, I'm not gonna call his name out, but I've seen a couple of his cars, and they you know, the work is good, and from talking to him I can tell that his work is good. But normally you don't want to see this. So just one piece, there's a reason, and I'll explain that. But if the whole freaking vehicle is masked up with paper, then again, normally it's just make sure that it's somebody with good reputation, and maybe just somebody doing old school, you know, versus the plastic, because the plastic is more of a new school method. The door should be taken off, because again, we have the issue where we're going to be hardlining it, but I flat out didn't feel like it. So if you're going to do this, technically the inside of this whole door should be protected, because as we're spraying this, there's white paint going that way in the booth. Now I am going to spray this with the door pull to a little bit like that. That way so much don't go in there, and I will show you how much actually goes in there and what gets overspray on it. But I have ran a little tape over my rubber seal right here, so that hopefully we don't get too much white overspray on it. And obviously I'm definitely masking off the inside so we don't get overspray on it. So this piece of trim right here will get covered up with the door panels. But just tons of issues right here, because again, we're going to be doing a melt here, and then you got all this exposed. You know, so we'll see afterwards how much overspray gets on it. I'm pretty good with gun control, trying to keep it in one area whenever I'm cutting corners, but you can only control the overspray so much. But you should never be doing a high-end job and seeing this image right here, where the inside of the door jamb is back taped or masked off, which this is only half masked off, because we have created another hard line down here, which actually might get melted. I actually might melt it, because I'm only worried about up to here. But again, this is all prepped out with Scotch-Brite versus 3000 grit, so it's going to be a sorry melt if I do melt it. But you cannot sell a customer show quality job and leave the doors on it. If it's a show quality job, then the doors need to come off. All the hinges need to be individually painted, everything cleaned, the whole door needs to be stripped down, and everything reassembled. There's no such thing as show quality paint work with the freaking doors still on the car. So if you see that and they're doing show quality high-end stuff, candies, custom paints, all that stuff, and they got the doors on it, they're freaking jack donkey is what they are. I'm not going to use the word and get flagged on YouTube, but that's what they are. And hopefully if they are doing this level of work with the door still in the vehicle, hopefully their price reflects it, and it's some crappy garbage work like $800, $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 for an all over. So you shouldn't be paying $1,800 for an all over paint job. If it is, again, you're getting a jack donkey paint job. You're getting some jacked up crap is what you're getting. So I mean, that's just be aware of that. If you have your pride and your joy in your race car and somebody's trying to sell you a job and you get pictures of it, or you see other stuff in the bay and the freaking doors are still hung on it and it's all messed up and they're calling it show quality. As long as the person selling the job is honest with you and is actually letting you know what they're doing is, hey, we're going to leave the doors on, that's going to save you a couple bucks, then there's nothing wrong with that. Honesty is the key. If the body shop is being honest and being like, hey, you should do it this way, but to do it this way, it's $3,000. If we skip corners and we leave it on, then we can get you down to $2,200. Then okay, you know what you're getting. But you're going to have issues all inside your door jambs, or your door hinges are going to have peel and paint at some point, because there's no good efficient way for the guy prepping it to get inside there and prep it all out. So we're going to get some paint mixed up. We're going to get this thing shot. And I just kind of wanted to take a chance to show y'all some shoddy work. I normally don't get to show it because we frankly don't do too much of it. No customer job, like I said, gets it unless it's requested. And even our flip cars, we often don't. It's easier to just catch the paint before the stuff is assembled to an extent. Sometimes we put bumpers together and we tape and stuff like that. But I have a whole nother series that I could do on how to do salvage title flip cars and actually make money doing it fast and efficient. But you're going to have to cut some corners on your paint and body work. So mix up some paint and we're going to get this sprayed out, and I'll catch you on the next update.